enough?
Anyway, we come in hot and bothered and ask little bro to explain himself.
If you wanted revenge, you should have come for me.
Not only did you murder my father, but my two brothers as well. That is why I took your best friend's life.
He makes a fair point, but sadly, the problems are only starting because he has one last surprise. Truly a devastating moment, a twist no one saw coming. Seeking revenge, he's taken everything away from Travis. His brother, his student, and his lover are all dead, sending Travis into a fit of rage.
Enough!
Let the final battle begin!
Holy shit, we're finally here. And being the last encounter of the game, it has to be a good one, right? No, it's fucking awful. Which I thought maybe was meant to be ironic because he's the last boss, but really lackluster. But I don't know how far irony will get you here. The only thing that makes sense about his character is that he owns a pizza chain and has a pizza tattooed on his head. That's actually kind of hilarious, but it doesn't make up for the rest. After allowing Batty to damage himself to no health, I straight up thought the game was broken because I couldn't deal any more damage to him and he wouldn't fall again. Is this a glitch or is the game f***ing with me? Well, it is in a sense. Turns out after you've gotten him down to his last pip of health, you have to wait for him to drive to the other side and stand in front of the attack to initiate a cutscene. That move hurts us up to that point. We were conditioned to avoid it, then all of a sudden it's the only way to progress. Anyway, in this cutscene, Batty Boy uses a mechanical arm to grab and squeeze the life out of Travis. Thankfully, a hero arrives to save the day.
Don't be deceived so easily. They're just replicas.
Serious? Jeez. Well, aren't I a gullible idiot?
Ah, distractions and abstracality. Obviously, it's good that these interesting characters are still alive and able to continue their story, but at the same time, it invalidates the only cool twist that the end of the game had to offer, which is kind of a bummer.
You're gonna f***ing pay.
We beat on him some more, and after clearing the health, there's an epic transformation where he ends up looking like a roided egad from Luigi's Mansion. This phase is hilarious because he repeatedly grabs us with a near unmissable attack and tombstones our ass. He can also throw us, and if he gets you at the wrong angle, he can throw you right out the window, resulting in an instant death, which is really just the icing on the cake. Once again, we clear his health, and this time, send the little shit flying out the window. But it doesn't end there, because there's a third and final form.
That's hideous. Rich assassins pull the craziest shit. Well, we almost got him.
Reappearing from the window, the man's morphed into a clapped Stay Puft marshmallow form, floating above the skyscraper, looking for another scrap.
Come on, Prez. Unleash your hate, your anger, everything. I'll take it all and fucking kill you with it.
It's a fairly interesting set piece. He attacks with slams and powerful exhales, but that's all he's got. And when I fired off that devil trigger, my man was done. And as he falls backwards, Travis gives us one last epic scene. Of course, always want to finish in style, we managed to land on the beast and slice it in two. And with that, Jasper Batty is finally destroyed and Bishop has been avenged. Falling, it looks like the end. Even the great Travis would be in trouble from a fall of this height. But he saved at the last minute, pulled away by a speeding Sylvia. I would question the physics of such a maneuver, but we did just fight an inflatable Batman ripoff, so fuck me, I guess. The two ride off together before Sylvia mysteriously drops Travis off at the motel, after which we flick back to current day and discover it was Travis in the voyeur room all along.
Santa Destroyer needs us.
Travis, I know more hero.
I mean, I would ask why he spent years just looking at her in a voyeur room, you know, letting her rot right up to the last second, but she did drop her ass off at the motel for no reason, so I guess comme ci, comme ça.
Travis.
Looking back, I don't think Desperate Struggle ended on a high note. In this ending, a lot of interesting characters aren't even mentioned, like what happened to Henry and Shinobu. Those are two super interesting characters, and they're not even mentioned once Batty's destroyed. You'd think Travis would have a touching reunion, having assumed his student and brother were killed, but we get nada. And hey, I'm not fussy. Give me a Fallout style slideshow if you want. I just want to see the crew involved in some capacity. Overall, it's not a bad game. Far from it. In fact, I fully anticipate that this will be some people's favorite in the franchise, but to me, it feels somewhat sluggish when compared to the more fulfilled work of the first title. True to his promise, the theme of revenge is center stage, but it's not just Travis seeking revenge. It looks at the endless circle revenge creates and ultimately the pointlessness of it all.
Don't think you can kill without suffering consequences.
It starts with Helter avenging his brother. Then we seek revenge for Bishop and end up fighting Jasper, who's searching for revenge for his family, who've never even been elaborated on.
Not only did you murder my father,
Ultimately, everyone's a shitty person, and any attempt to seek violent revenge just creates another cog in the wheel of people looking for violent revenge. This is what The Last of Us Part 2 was trying to portray, but at least Travis actually got revenge. He didn't kill half of Santa Destroy just to walk away because, whoa, he's just like Batty. No, he sticks to his guns no matter the consequences.
Go to hell.
After the second game dropped, a lot of time passed, and fans were getting restless. Is the story of Travis over? Did he live happily ever after with the woman he loved?
Santa Destroy needs us.
Well, after No More Heroes dropped, Suda was a busy boy, working on other titles, specifically a free-to-play hack and slash called Let It Die. This game sees players climb a supernatural tower, looting better gear and fighting the ghosts of other players. It was a fun game, but by no means a cult classic, at times feeling a little bit more like a quick microtransaction money grab than the intense single-player experiences that fans had come to know and love. Needless to say, fans were itching for another frolic in Santa Destroy, a desire that would go unanswered for 7 long years. That is, until 2017, when fans got their first look at Travis Strikes Again. Developed exclusively for the Switch, Suda wanted again to utilize motion controls for some hack and slash fun. It was a spin-off that mixed up the gameplay and the review scores all at once. Tee-hee.
So this is where it's been hiding.
As with the other games, Travis Strikes Again begins with a cutscene just before the main menu where we hear a phone conversation between two men.
Vengeance for my daughter. My little girl was murdered. I had to avenge her.
Turns out one of them wants to hunt down Travis and seek revenge. Revenge for his daughter Bad Girl, the second-ranking assassin from the first game. Her dad's a baseball bat-wielding brute called Badman. Innovative.
Now it's time to die.
In his hunt for Travis, he's betrayed the Smith Syndicate, so they come a-knocking. Cue a cameo from Dan Smith, the protagonist of Suda51's other game, Killer 7.
Don't even have balls to pull trigger.
Killer 7's a psychedelic action-adventure that follows a group of deadly assassins. The catch? They're all physical manifestations of one person who's able to morph into these different killers to utilize their skill sets where applicable. And that serves as the main mechanic for environmental puzzle solving. If you like this universe, Killer 7 would probably be worth checking out. But back to Badman. Instead of killing him, Dan makes a deal. Kill Travis and bring his daughter back.
Kill him and bring your daughter back. Then we're all square.
You smoking crack or what?
A surprisingly favorable offer punctuated by a death ball.
That's called a death ball, by the way. Now go kill Travis Touchdown.
But what does it do, and how will it bring his daughter back to life? We don't know. Now, the keen-eared here might recognize another legendary voice actor, that being Steve Bloom. Throw a stone in any video game store and you'll hit something this dude's had a role in. He's f***ing addicted to voice acting. Someone stop this man.
Got dead flesh on my new boots.
Arriving at an inconspicuous caravan, Badman heads inside to find Travis playing a certain pixelated game the keen-eyed might recognize.
Take one more step, and you're dead.
Sneaking up behind him, Badman makes a deadly swing.
Really fucked up now, old man.
But it's a decoy, and a fight ensues with Travis taking a moment to introduce himself to a new generation of gamers.
Let me at least introduce myself. Travis Touchdown.
After that, the console, well, it comes to life, with Badman referring to it as some mysterious device known as the Death Drive.
So this is where it's been hiding.
And that's all we know when we arrive at the main menu, confused and eager for more. Hitting new game, there isn't the usual bombastic introduction. Instead, we're greeted with a pixelated title screen, announcing the game Electric Thunder Tiger 2. My word, what is this? Have we been duped, or is the game pulling a high on life? Pressing start, we find Travis teleporting onto a road, somewhere between fuck knows and where, in a style directly inspired by the Terminator. We have no clue where we are or what's going on, but if you're playing with a buddy, you'd find Travis accompanied by Badman. That's right, this is the first and last multiplayer game in the franchise, and it's a core part of its identity. As I alluded to earlier, this was an entirely different type of game. It's not a direct sequel, it's more of a twin-stick shooter, primarily featuring a top-down perspective, linear progression, and surprisingly, no voice acting. And having a spin-off is fine, but what ruffled some feathers is that serious plot points crucial to the third game are in this spin-off. And I think it's questionable to hide vital information behind a vastly different type of game. It excludes people that don't like that genre from knowing what's going on when they pick up the third game, which doesn't even try to fill you in. It's like Sud is creating an exclusive boys club and only those that buy the spin-off can be part of the story. Regardless, we speak to what looks like glitch data floating in the air, which turns out to be sentient beings called Death and Drive. They imply that somehow we've transported ourselves inside a video game, and not any old game, Electric Thunder Tiger 2, which just so happens to be Travis's old favourite arcade game. Annoyed by our unexpected arrival, they threaten to remove us by force, so if we want to escape, we have to fight our way out. A tutorial follows where, as I mentioned earlier, you'll find the combat somewhat simplified. You don't even have to press the attack button anymore, you can just hold it down to swing endlessly. This simplification annoyed some fans, with one reviewer writing that they love Suda's game, but the gameplay just isn't fun, way too simplistic, and some skills are just broken. I can't say I fully agree with this rhetoric, especially in the later levels where special abilities start to spice things up. These abilities come from a glove Travis is wearing, which is almost certainly a spoof of Nintendo's Power Glove.
Power Glove.
Who designed this? What was their thought process? The biggest impact it had was spawning quality memes many years later. This glove unlocks a variety of different powers, from slowing time to calling in an orbital cannon, and yes, some of them are overpowered and others are useless, but hey, if we're being honest, while I loved the combat in previous games, it was never especially complex, bar the odd unbalanced occasion. I suppose some people just hate this style of combat, which, as I said earlier, it's totally fair, but for those able to adjust, the game does offer some of the most entertaining and pivotal character developing moments in the entire franchise. The enemies in the game come in the form of various bugs that have infected the games we play, from your standard melee and ranged bugs to drill hand or juggernaut bugs. They attack in huge numbers. Most of the screen time is Travis chaotically tearing through hordes as we run through quarries, construction sites, Metal Gear facilities, and urban sprawls, interacting along the way with a few key characters. For starters, there's Dr. Juvenile, the scientist that allegedly created this world, who helps us along and offers advice to get started. Although clearly something's up with her. She appears fragmented, corrupt. The second recurring character is known as Bug Extra, and this dude is my favourite character, randomly spouting unrelated words of advice, some of which are great, while most of it is pure gibberish. The final character is an entity known as White Sheepman, a suspicious character claiming to be the memory manager whose desires are, for now, unknown. About halfway through this level, we run into the first boss, where you can really appreciate the amount of personality they managed to convey even without voice actors. This goat demon won't stop using the text screen because it doesn't have any friends, and apparently you can't miss up the opportunity for a good text dump. We quickly and efficiently dispatch him, ending its lonely existence once and for all, and we continue on our way, slashing deeper into this beautiful neon-lit city. Toward the end, we arrive at a ramen noodle cart where we can restore our health and gather unique pictures of ramen noodle types. I mean, why not? I love ramen as much as the next man, and their shit had me hungry every time I was eating. Heading down a dark tunnel towards what almost looks like a sun in the distance, we emerge in an arena face to face with Triple Star, the protagonist of Electric Thunder 2 and former idol of Travis. Also, I have to say, the purple jacket is f***ing dripped out. It's his best outfit in the franchise. Don't care, come at me. Speaking to Triple Star, despite our admiration, Travis isn't making nice, still valuing strength above all else. This means there's only one option, to fight, with Triple Star appearing resigned to his fate, mostly because he has no other choice and nothing else to do. It's a good fight, miles better than Baba Ganoush and his hovering car. In his first phase, we have to memorize and dodge an onslaught of bullets and slams, getting the occasional hit in where we can. After this, there's a dodging phase where we have to smash some electrical conductors, and finally, we finish him off with some good old-fashioned hack and slash before a grand suplex. Defeated, Triple Star tells us that we're beyond redemption, but he thanks us for freeing him, claiming that his existence was uncomfortable and wishing to have met Travis under different circumstances. After this, we're given a powerful skill chip, something we get after every boss, giving us access to abilities similar to the boss's fighting style, in this case, a powerful electric shock. Chip in hand, Travis and Badman get booted from the system. But before returning to the real world, we find Travis sat in a chair recapping the events almost like an interrogation. These post-game debriefs offer real character development for Travis, whereas before he shrugged most things off with a cavalier attitude and moved on, here he's forced to confront and explain his actions. And just for clarity, Electric Thunder Tiger isn't a real IP, although the idea of having Travis run through actual games was discussed, but it never happened, probably due to the joys of IP licensing. Looking at you, Friday the 13th. After this, we arrive at the game's main base of operation, a little camp in the middle of nowhere, a humble equivalent of the motel from other titles. Here we can save, read faxes, replay missions, launch new ones, and even buy new tops for Travis, most of which are based on real indie titles. Of course, being a man of culture, I dripped both our boys out with Hotline Miami and Disco Elysium tops. Elite indie gaming.
He said he sodomized your mother.
When we're ready, we hop on our bike and begin the game proper, getting another debrief where Travis kind of explains what's going on. Somehow, after the events of the last game, Travis came into possession of a super high-tech and classified piece of kit known as the Death Drive Mark II, a games console able to transfer a human conscience into a game. There was only ever 6 games made, but apparently if a user clears them all back to back, they'll be granted one wish, because that's the magic of video games. The Death Ball Badman was handed at the start, well, that was one of them, and when Badman approached Travis for revenge, the two were accidentally sucked into the game world. So now, instead of killing each other, the two agree to work together to get all the Death Balls and complete them, giving Badman an opportunity to wish for his daughter back.
Charlotte, we'll be seeing you soon enough.
Driving off, the game transforms into a graphic novel, and boy, does this section go on for a long time. So I shall summarize. While driving on the open road, he encounters 2 strange men called Red Ribbon and Bruno that claim they're from the 25th Ward and that they know where we can find another Death Ball. Under their instructions, we head over to the Nightmare Burger where we find a weird dude who appears rather suspicious, referring to himself in the third person as the Observer. These 2 men, this dude, and even the place they're from, Ward 25, are all from another Suda51 game called The Silver Case, which follows a series of murders and crime investigations. If you haven't noticed, the game is a giant homage to Suda's work, and there's plenty more to come. Yuihara tells us that he doesn't know the exact location of a Death Ball, but knows a good lead, and just when we're about to blow our cool, our cat Jean, well, she tells us to trust the dude. Yes, the cat can talk now. All I know is that she is one confrontational bugger wanting us to f this dude up if he doesn't deliver. After bickering back and forth, he takes us to a car wash where we meet a woman called Tutsuyo no Akira, who makes the ultimate mistake of insulting Jean, resulting in our cat asking us to, and I quote, snuff that bitch. What kind of a monster did we raise? Anyway, after more drawn out dialogue about Travis's past, she hands over keys that opens up a secret dungeon at a nearby convenience store. This dungeon is a complex labyrinth that would be a nightmare to traverse, so the two opt to use cheat codes instead. This rewards them instantly with the Death Ball and hammers home the importance of cheating. Before taking the ball back to our Death Drive, we stop by the video game store and ask Bishop to take a look, and And I know, didn't Bishop die in the last game? Well, yes, he did, but this is his younger brother, Bizarre Shivili Bishop. Anyway, he confirmed that this is in fact a real death ball, which means we have another game to clear. Whew. I'm glad that's over. Understandably, you might be worried that the game is a little one note, and that was a concern I had when I started playing. How could they keep it fresh? Well, thankfully, each game has its own niche and mocks a different genre of gaming. Just to see what the next game had to offer was reason enough to keep me going. That and the stellar writing. The second game's called Life is Destroy, and it's allegedly based off a real-life murderer called Doppelganger, a disturbed lad that's introduced in the game's bizarre intro.
The hours of famine. They're after Satan. Why aren't you dead?
After introducing a messy gamer character, we see a crazed killer make the young man pick his own method of murder from a deck of cards. All the while, Doppelganger's miscolored eyes stare him down. It's a disturbing introduction, for sure, and after this we appear in the town suburb. It's bright and colourful, especially when compared to the gritty cutscenes we just saw, but I suppose if they kept the grungy aesthetic, it would look like we were playing Hatred or something. The quirk of this game is the ability to rearrange the town, shifting tiles to create different pathways as we explore and investigate crime scenes. Scenes like Doppelganger's first murder, where he killed his wife and attempted to take his daughter's life to boot, but she somehow escaped. These crime scenes are filled with bugs that we have to destroy before moving on, and every time we clear a building, a chill beat kicks in as we leave. Now, I might be stretching, but this could be a wink and a nod to Hotline Miami, which has a very similar design once you've completed an area. Exploring these gruesome scenes, we discover that Doppelganger's first few kills were with an aim. He was, in his mind, killing bad people, criminals and perverts, but eventually he lost his mind, eating his victims and claiming to become multiple people off the back of it.
Let's play a game of death.
The real question this level raises is what's the difference between the two killers? Travis has undoubtedly slaughtered countless more people than Doppelganger ever could, but for revenge and personal gain. Yet Travis constantly tries to take the moral high ground, sickened by Doppelganger's meaningless killings. So where Triple Star is a parallel of Travis as he stands, Doppelganger is more of a cautionary tale of what he could become if Travis went down a different path. Once all of the crime scenes have been cleaned, including the bloodied site where Doppelganger took out an entire religious cult, eventually we face Doppelganger in a cul-de-sac, where he appears excited to see the difference between a calculated assassin and a cold-blooded killer. Nothing crazy happens at the start of the fight. He's super fast, able to teleport and dash around the arena, hitting us hard. Thankfully, we have enough abilities to keep him immobile for long enough to damage him. It's not until later in the fight that his namesake really comes into its own. Spawning multiple clones in a circle, a countdown will begin in the middle, and we have to find the real Doppelganger before it hits 0, or we get chefed up. For his phase 3, nothing actually happens. Apparently he was meant to transform, but they didn't have the budget to get over it. Once he's beat, Doppelganger starts speaking about how similar they are, something Travis disagrees with, claiming Doppelganger lacks humanity. And when Travis calls out his lack of sorrow, Doppelganger doesn't seem to know what Travis means. So Travis tells him to go to hell, and this causes Doppelganger to break down and cry out for his mum. But it's a ruse. As Travis says, he's nothing but a demon. Back in the interview room, we contemplate Doppelganger, reflecting on how empty his killer's instincts were. Motivated by nothing more than ending life, and remembering White Sheepman's words, he notes that the real Doppelganger is still on the run, likely searching for his daughter. Between missions, by reading faxes sent by a mysterious Mr. Clark, we learn a lot more about the creation of the Death Drive. After this mission, for example, Clark reveals that Juvenile is Doppelganger's adoptive daughter, which explains his previously cryptic claim that he created her and she created him. Channeling her past traumatic experiences, possibly even as some kind of active therapy, she created this game based on her childhood. In search of the next death ball, we head out and follow up various leads, but we're not getting anywhere. That is until a rich businessman gets in touch and asks to meet. Turns out he has the death ball and he just hands it over to Travis because he's an old buddy of Badman. They used to play baseball together back when Badman was a pro, which explains the family skill with a bat. In any case, we have another death ball, so we head back and we plug that bitch in. The next game's called Coffee and Donuts, a murder mystery set among the old corridors of a lavish mansion. The game's introduction trailer is fucking wild, animated like an old PS1 game or the nurse from Postal 2. From what I can gather, it's a war-torn universe where one side is losing badly. An unknown warrior, having been captured, is forced to watch his father's execution before he's blinded and exiled to the desert. Wandering aimlessly, he falls into quicksand, which would appear to be the end. But it's not. Instead, he floats down to an underground tomb where he's gifted with an ancient suit of power armor, allowing him to seek righteous revenge against those who wronged him. Why the fuck is this game called Coffee and Donuts? Pressing play, we load into a large estate where for the first time, Badman accompanies us, walking around and helping us figure out where to go next. It's a shame he didn't accompany us more throughout the game. His insight adds that extra layer to the story, and I enjoyed seeing how the two bounced off each other. Exploring, every door is blocked or corrupted with no way through, and searching deeper, there's only one door we can open. Stepping inside, we find the game's boss, Brian Buster Jr., already dead. So, taking the advice of Death and Drive, we head out to gather his missing treats, in the hopes that returning his favourite snacks will please his spirit enough to tell us what happened. A few of the sealed doors are open now, leading us to a post-apocalyptic desert littered with enemies and carefully watched by a giant mechanical head in the distance. Side-scrolling camera and platforming are the main themes of this game, which see us jumping between platforms or worse still, donuts to reach our goal, and honestly, bouncing on the donuts is so awful. Other than that, we spend most of this level finding various versions of Buster's body and returning coffee to it before he acts confused about why he's been brought back. The different biomes we traverse in our hunt for goodies are the only variety, with each door leading to either a desert or a lush jungle. So two. You get two varieties. Once we return Coffee and Donuts to the final body, the large sealed doors in the middle of the house open. So we make our way outside to find Brian Buster Jr. back in his mech suit, and he doesn't seem happy to see us because he wasn't murdered. Turns out he took his own life. Having become depressed after destroying all his enemies and with no challenge or purpose in life, he just decided to give up. And much to my chagrin, we've given him a new enemy to fight. The boss was great. It's a wooden Gundam with no phases or bullshit, just a straight up brawl. Although the giant head in the background does sit up and start shooting stuff at us, but I cleared him too quick to really see what he was up to. It was spooky though. Big head sitting up all spooky though. With Buster's mechanical suit destroyed, he appears happy to have had a challenge again, claiming that the fight was fun and that he had lived a good life. After this, he finally gets his wish and he dies a warrior's death. It would seem Travis feels a level of pity for him. The miserable way in which he tried to take his own life isn't the way a warrior should die. As a man that loves to fight, he would understand this and would likely be glad to have fulfilled his wish. As he says afterwards, no matter what anyone says, he was a real man. Rest in peace, our beloved Comstock. At camp, we've received another fax from Kay, this time outlining more about the machine's original purpose. Turns out it was a cloning device, created with the plan of sending humans to Mars. But when the old CIA caught wind of it, well, they wanted to use it to make a clone army. And if we finish all the games, the original machine at CIA headquarters will activate, giving the government exactly what they want. This is why Juvenile created the bugs in the first place, to protect her creation and stifle the government's plans. But that's the problem for another day. We're a man of singular vision, so we set off to get another death ball, this time from Count Dracula, who just so happens to be a collector because of course he is. Arriving at His castle, we discover a grisly scene. He's been beheaded by a man named Mondo Zappa, who, not wanting any beef with us, takes the death ball from Count Dracula's brain and hands it to us, all in a day's work. For those of you not in the know, Mondo Zappa is the protagonist from the hack and slash Killer is Dead, another cult classic from Suda51.
This? Stolen?
Anyway, we have our fourth game, Golden Dragon. Plugging in, we find ourselves in a small Japanese room with a telephone ringing. Answering the call, the boss tells us that to beat the game, we have to win his race, which takes place in virtual reality. A game within a game within a game. This really is the inception of video games. Putting on the headset, we're transported to a vector-line racetrack, speeding forward. To win the race, we have to handle changing gears along an elaborate grid, and once we're there, we have to use nitros at the last second to whiz past. That was nice and easy. I'm sure the next one will be slightly more challenging, and we got bodied. Absolutely destroyed. It's not even close. Back in our room, the phone rings again, where Smokey gloats about his victory. Apparently to win, we need to pimp out our ride by climbing the Dragon Tower for better parts. This is the real meat and two veg of Golden Dragon, working through old dojos and taking out fake martial arts masters just like old times. At the end of each area, we get an upgrade, giving us one up on the next champion. Rinse and repeat 3 times until finally we're up against the big boss, Smoking King in the Vector flesh. And you bet your sweet ass it's a tight race, one that's interrupted mere seconds away from the end by the King, which thank God I was losing that shit for sure. Turns out Big Smoke is sick of racing, and recognizing us as something different, he asks if we'd like to change the venue. An offer we accept before meeting him on top Dragon Tower, which consists of a grand bathhouse overlooking the city. His fight style is very brutish, and as you might expect, smoke-based. He locks areas of the arena down with his smoke plumes as we avoid them and try and land a hit. There's no phases or transformations, it's good old-fashioned fighting, something Travis remarks on after we've defeated him. Claiming that to be a true killer, you can't fight fair, and that's where the Smoke King went wrong. Again, throughout this game, Travis's personality is shifting. He's becoming more empathetic and understanding of the plights each individual faces. Maybe that's the point of having Travis work through their world. He's able to detach from his normal way of thinking and view life from another viewpoint, something he's never had to do before. And then we head off for the next death ball, flying to Japan in person, where Travis meets up with Dr. Juvenile's ex-boyfriend, who's living in a house in the middle of the ocean. My brother in Christ, that's not what they mean when they say boathouse. He says some cryptic past tense shit, hands us the ball, then disappears, or more specifically, gets deleted from the world. Ball in hand, we swim back. Not too sure, mind you. Back to America, a true patriot. The next death ball, Killer Marathon, is the best in the game. The graphical fidelity and mechanical depth are like nothing you've ever seen, or at least it was meant to be. But due to rewrites, they never finished development, so when we boot it, we arrive in little more than an Unreal test area with default textures and object borders still visible. There's only one walled tunnel for us to follow, that's all. Apart from a little hidden area we can jump to, there's nothing else. And reaching the end of the hallway, we're sent to a retro asteroid game, dodging rockets and hunting down alien motherships. You just play this until you die, and once it's over, we're booted from the game. That's it. It's incomplete, so there's no boss, no conclusion, it's just another pseudo troll. Which means there's only one ball left, and it's in the clutches of a man named Damon, the CEO of the Utopia Tech Corporation, a conglomerate in the process of redeveloping Santa Destroy. This CEO actually stole the ball from Dr. Juvenile years ago, so we track him down and force him to hand it over, where he explains that she wouldn't let him make the game how he wanted, so he beat her to a pulp. Now, having become a fan of Juvenile recently, Travis isn't impressed, so he returns the favor with one crisp punch to Damon's jaw. Taking the ball and walking away, the CEO stands up and proclaims his quest for revenge, and it's written in all caps, so you know he means business. I just wonder if or when that anger will come to a head. Hey, I'm sure it's nothing. Live and let live, as they say. The final death ball is Serious Moonlight, an action role-playing game that sounds charming. Of course, not everything is as it seems, because when Travis launches the game, players will quickly know something is off. And when Garcia Hotspur appears, driving along a nightmarish highway, the penny drops. We've been bamboozled. This isn't Moonlight, this is a sequel to Shadows of the Damned.
Go on, feed me!
Another cult classic from Suda I mentioned earlier, one that was screwed big time by their publisher EA messing with the project. If you haven't played it, imagine Resident Evil 4 with the humor of No More Heroes, and instead of having a funny talking merchant, we have a funny shape-shifting weapon.
A few little transgressions, and now I'm doomed to an eternity of heavy metal jokes and posing for pirate flags.
And if that hasn't sold you, well, it was made in collaboration with Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil and The Evil Within. And not only that, but Akira Yamaoka made the music for this game, the creator of Silent Hill's most memorable tracks. It was the fucking dream team. With talent like that, it should have been a masterpiece. But like I said, EA stifled this game at every turn, rejecting 5 separate drafts and significantly altering the designs to make them better fit Western tastes.
What's this? Sushi with a dick?
Serious Moonlight is a fuck you to everyone that hampered Shadows of the Damned's development, and a love letter to the fans that would kill to see a sequel.
Now that is a big boner.
In the game's launch trailer, Garcia's just been killed by a man named Alfred, who, in a nice Easter egg, is based on a rejected design for Garcia. In his final breath, Garcia says goodbye to his living weapon, Johnson,
This is goodbye, partner.
before throwing him through a blood portal, sending him to safety elsewhere in the underworld.
Took 7 of those bullets, yet he survives.
Here, Johnson transforms into 8 Hearts, a skulled being of revenge and the boss of this game. Much like Garcia, who went into hell in search of his lover, we journey through the underworld to discover what happened to Serious Moonlight. A mystery that's quickly solved by chatting with Bug Extra. They reveal that Dr. Juvenile wanted to cancel Serious Moonlight because she couldn't fully realize her idea with current technology. But despite her objections, the higher-ups forced her to continue. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? So rather than pursue her original concept, Juvenile morphed the game into a sequel for her favorite video game, Shadows of the Damned.
Hunter of demons and slayer of cabrons like you!
Working through cobbled ruins and an old village, every time we speak to White Sheepman, he offers some developer's commentary about the creation of Shadows of the Damned, all of which are basically Suda lovingly recounting his thought process in designing the plot and monsters. It's actually really nice to see how much he still clearly loves this universe. Reaching the end, we come face to face with 8 Hearts, where the two cheekily mull over making a modern port of the game, which, yeah, please do, remakes are all the rage nowadays. And afterwards, the two agree to fight, which I don't really know why. Surely they should want to kill Alfred, not each other, but we don't make the rules. Guided by the spirit of Garcia, 8 Heart goes all out, spawning blue orbs and keeping us on the run for most of the fight. Although his moveset is surprisingly limited, considering it's a literal shape-shifting weapon, I expected a more bizarre moveset. But despite our love for Garcia and Johnson, we bash his skull in. Having a final chat, the two heroes agree not to give up. They agree to fight their way out of hell and to make another game. More or less, wink wink, user-friendly marketing.
You never know what's waiting around the bend.
But with that, all 6 games are complete. So what will happen? Will our magical wishes come true? Or has this been a massive farce? Something I honestly wouldn't put past Suda. Thankfully, that's not the case. Turns out these games really are magic, and a giant tiger appears granting Badman his wish. But there's a catch, because if you remember, Killer Marathon wasn't complete. It was a buggy game, which means this entity's powers are off kilter. Badman gets his daughter back, but her soul is trapped in a chihuahua, the shittest of dogs. Which can only mean one thing: the story isn't over. She can't stay like that, so we hop on our bike to look for answers. Meeting Kamui at Nightmare Burger, something's wrong. His energy's off, and all of a sudden, he wants to fight us. Not only that, but he's brought 4 assassins along to help. And once Travis has killed them all in a variety of humorous ways, we turn to fight Kamui, but Travis refuses. Kamui's Travis's friend, and he won't kill him. A sentiment that makes Kamui burst into tears and hand him another super secret ball. Of course, it's broken, so we pay a visit to Frank, the creator of the Death Ball hardware, who's able to fix it up for us. We thank him, say our goodbyes to Kamui, and insert the last ball entitled CIA. When the game loads, the text is damaged and warns us that the ball's unstable, something we ignore before heading in. As the game would imply, we're at CIA headquarters, except as Travis explains, this isn't a game, it's the real world and the bugs have invaded. It would appear the cloning machine is working, able to create life from code, which is why the bugs are here. It's out of control. Sadly, it's a really disappointing level. A series of boring white hallways that for some reason have an awful static effect taking up half the screen. The only way to get rid of it is to stand on specific pads, which by the way, only clear the static for a few seconds. It's really poorly made. The only joy I got in this level was finding the Hotline Miami game cabinets. Approaching and inserting a token, we get advice from the different animals in the exact same style seen in the game. We even get to follow the iconic dead bodies as they guide us deeper into the complex. Now I won't spoil it, but Hotline Miami has a bunch of references to the government, so aside from being cool, it actually makes sense to have them working through the headquarters. And after interacting with 3 more machines and apparently becoming friends with Jacket, mass murder besties, we enter the basement and come face to face with Juvenile, who's transformed into a physical embodiment of White Sheepman. She orchestrated this attack because she wants revenge against the government for their abuse of her technology, even planning on using her bug army to destroy the whole USA, something we can't allow, so we plead with her to stop, telling her she's a genius and begging her to return to society. But she says nothing. She just stares. So, wanting a grand climax, the two agree to fight, and what a fight it is. I had no idea what was happening half the time. I mean, I'm pretty sure she dropped the fucking moon on me at one point. It's a psychedelic dream, all flashing lights, radiating beams, monochrome grids, and trippy vector graphics. Hardcore science fiction fans will love this shit. But like all that stood before her, eventually she falls, and Travis is actually gutted. Defeating her hasn't brought him any joy, it's brought him the opposite. He didn't want to kill her. In fairness, he realizes that she only existed as hate and anger, and that maybe destroying whatever was left of her is for the best. And with only a few moments left, Travis asks her to say anything before she goes, to which she replies, "In the human world, the time for games has ended. Nothing binds us now." With nothing left, Travis walks over to the machine at the center and activates it. With a quick flash, we arrive on Mars, or at least a cloned version of us is there among the pixels. But we're not alone, because John Winter, the creator of the Death Drive and Dr. Juvenile's real father, he's already here, waiting to answer our questions. Apparently, John left Earth to escape the craziness of human life. He liked the peace and quiet Mars offered and a return to traditional simple living, you know, hunting Martian animals for meat. Traditional. He wanted to stop the government so they couldn't use his machine and colonize Mars, which would bring with it convenience and modernization, a somewhat selfish reason, but hey, it's still pretty badass. They speak for a while about Travis staying on Mars, all the while token on a shisha, and the pixelated graphics mixed with the chill music is a phenomenal vibe. All of the chaos of the game, and it ends in such an unexpectedly but entirely welcome, relaxed manner. Ultimately though, Travis has responsibilities back on Earth, so he declines John's offer. Of course, we can't just be sent back. We're not the original Travis, so instead, he kills us. As the squares of colour that comprise of our head fall through the Martian atmosphere, the credits roll. And after that, we find Travis back at his trailer, where Shinobu makes a surprise appearance, questioning where the hell we've been, before telling us it's time to return to the world of assassins.
Next up, the assassins await.
And as credits roll for a second time, we get another post-credit secret. arriving in a test environment, but this time the controls and camera have returned to the series standard, and when we try and hit an enemy, Travis has a little message for us.
We're in development. For what game? Like I'm gonna tell you that.
Wow, if only the third game wasn't out already, that would have blown my mind. Now, originally, when the game released, it was over here. You could play a New Game Plus if you wanted to, even being able to play as Shinobu, but that's menial. The real question you should be asking is, what about Bad Girl? She's still a dog. Well, it turns out Suda51 would release a little DLC that really sets up the third game and completes the spin-off story, which again, is kind of a shitty thing to do. Hiding plot points not only in a spin-off, but then in the DLC for that spin-off. Thankfully, it comes bundled with the PC and physical editions, which makes the experience less intrusive, but at the time, I could imagine that being jarring. The DLC story continues with Shinobu waking Travis up and warning him that they're surrounded. Telling the others to stay put, he goes outside to investigate